general overview of the project is that in the course of this democratic discourse and dialogue, we are working with students here and training to lead and facilitate conversation with the community and the E.O.Smith community and the broader Mansfield community to address and understand issues of mental health and well-being here at E.O.Smith and more broadly, in the hopes of finding solutions and concrete ways to improve those aspects of our school community.
So I think this project represents also a partnership between the University of Connecticut and E.O.Smith High School, and it really is an attempt to help us all work on these deliberative practices together. So having facilitation training both at the university and at the high school, hosting forums that include not only the students but also the faculty, teachers, and community members, all as a way of helping to build up the overall democratic capacities of all of our institutions.
So one of the outcomes too that we're looking for in terms of the project, E.O.Smith is really interested in making sure that the students and faculty members improve communication skills. So this is a fantastic way to teach students and faculty members to have conversations about difficult topics that don't degenerate into name calling or other nastiness, arguing. Exactly.
Things that happen at school, just like little things, like not handing an assignment, getting bad grades, and then those can be what's the word?
Triggered.
It kind of triggered and even exaggerated, exasperated even more at home potentially, due to familiar tensions and other things like that, and which can lead to a bit of a breakdown for some people.
Mm-hmm. And being a student, like we've already stated that high school is apparently a stressful time for teenagers nowadays, especially because we're going through just this changing period of our life. But in this era specifically, through like the increase in communication and technology, there's just been so much diversity with past generations that has had such an impact on mental health. Studies have shown that just the depression, anxiety, at least the awareness of it and the recognition of it itself has increased among teenagers. And I think being a student, I have peers that I am fundamentally concerned with their mental health. And I think really talking about it and discussing how we can solve it is really important for school, considering we're a place that we want to succeed. And I think mental health is a key aspect if we want to get the success that we deserve.
And going back to also what my peers and mentors have said, I'm sorry I keep saying that, but they've also touched on how like this is becoming an issue now, and I think that's part of the problem. It's become like not discussing our mental health has become so normalized. Like even with my experiences with friends and family, it's really normalized for me to have to undertake all this pressure. My parents say, oh, it's fine, I pulled like 3 all-nighters in a row. Sometimes you have to do that sort of stuff, even if you like sacrifice your personal health for it sometimes. And it's just really bringing that topic up, and we're realizing that some of like these issues, maybe we kind of swatted them aside before, but they do have real effects on us. And like the whole point of it is because we're all coming out here to cure it. We're trying to save people because it does drive people to some extremities.
I think that the topic of mental health is very, very important to bring into a high school setting because, with mental health, we also comes the topic of mental illness, and all of us know somebody who has a mental illness. Like probably every single person in this school knows somebody who has a mental illness, and I think that it's very important for us to deliberate a discussion on that so that we understand it better and so that we can better connect with each other, and have a deeper connection with each other to, as I said before, just for shared experiences.
And along with that, with knowing people that have mental illnesses, even though it is come to be such like a commonality, it's still something that has a stigma. And I think this discussion will really work to try to decrease the stigma around even just talking about it. Like you said, there should be more discussion upon like how people are feeling. Like that sounds so simplistic, but like it's still something that's not like talked about enough. I think along with like it becoming a normality, is that the word? Yeah. I think it is unfortunate that like I hear many phrases nowadays like, oh, like I only got 2 hours of sleep last night, or like, oh, have so much homework, I'm gonna kill myself. Like I feel like that's a lot of language that's being used nowadays, and it's really unfortunate that it is just kind of culturally accepted. And I think that, again, this conversation will really help to try to piece apart like our problems with solutions.
Well, one of the challenges is within the topic itself. It's a very, Grace here has touched upon it, but there is a lot of stigma surrounding it. And so that's why, even though the Democratic Discourse group, it's a very large group, and clearly people expressed like this was their top interest to talk about, but still we could get more people. But like a lot of people, they're more hesitant to come and participate because they feel that people won't respect their vulnerability, and there are people who don't respect vulnerability. So it's really difficult to try to strengthen the community and come together, be courageous enough to really come out and talk about this. And it's even harder, especially talking about this with like the adults in your lives who really have this notion normalized that like talking about mental health is a sign of weakness, and they try to invalidate our experiences. So that's one of the roadblocks here.
We've also run into some organizational snafus. We work on a rotating schedule here at E.O.Smith. Everybody's schedules is different to begin with. So we've been trying to meet with students during the school day and trying to rotate through the period so that not one period is getting hit all the time. It still limits who can attend the different meetings. And additionally, finding time to really dedicate to writing the issues guide. We're working with the National Issues Forums, but we're writing our own guide. So I think scheduling too in itself is a little ironic that it's a roadblock, considering stress and having a busy schedule is the exact reason why our mental health is affected. It is also the thing restricting us from being able to talk about it. So it's kind of ironic in a sense, but also I think, like somebody was saying, participation. I think talking about mental health is emotional and can be triggering, and sometimes it's easier not to talk about it because it doesn't bring out such an emotional reaction, yet internalization is another aspect that does affect our mental health. So it's like kind of this balance of you want to talk about your mental health because you want to get better, but at the same time I think there's a sense of fear around like being so vulnerable that to go about and talk about it amongst your peers.
And if I may piggyback on Sydney, I think that's one of the things we're looking at too for our actual deliberation is making sure that we have counselors here who will be available if we run into some really emotional situations and people need to excuse themselves to talk to somebody or be comforted by somebody. So that may be a potential challenge as we go into the planning stages of our larger community discourse.
What I thought was most surprising was just the sort of like I don't know if it's like ability or like I forget the word, like willingness. The willingness of everybody in democratic discourse to just sort of come together and be like, okay, maybe I don't, like, for example, I know a lot of people didn't want us to do the topic of mental health. Like, they would have rather done, like, either climate change or women's issues. But when we did decide on that, they said, okay, you know what, actually, that's a good idea. If the majority wants to do this, then I feel as though I can also contribute. And I think that's really important because that's one of the most critical, skills that you can learn in life is just to sort of say like, okay, maybe I didn't want to do this, but it will benefit me and I can understand that and I can recognize that. And so I'm willing to do it.
I think they are handling their discussions in small groups right now with a lot more finesse than we did initially. And I couldn't be happier. And this is, again, a very small sampling. We've got about 85 students right now who are participating in the program. It really took off. we're hoping to increase numbers as time goes by. We also have students from the Depot campus, which is another school that's affiliated with E.O.Smith, but they don't attend this building, so they've been coming over. We've got 8 students from the Depot campus, and everybody has just really given it their all, and we've got a pretty wide range of students who are participating too, which has been awesome. So that's been pleasantly surprising.
There are many student movements that have been taking off, especially recently. Like the National Walkout was something that we participated in and did organize a little bit at this school, and it's something that's been going on all over the country. And these are all things that are necessary and that need to happen.
I think going along with being excited rather than surprised was just how many students hop on the opportunity to engage in this civil discourse. I think in high school, especially in E.O.Smith, we're relatively secluded, and I think it's easy to hide behind the problem. But I think the fact that people are so excited and willing to really engage in this opportunity to change and develop our community is really exciting, because participation is the whole fundamentals for how this project is run, and the fact that so many people do want to participate and are actively participating is really exciting.
So I think support from the Humility and Conviction grant was very essential in getting this project off the ground. The fellowship program through the Initiative on Campus Dialogues, which is affiliated with the grant, provided us a forum to originally brainstorm the concepts around what we wanted to accomplish here, and then has given us a basis to work through some of the logistics and strategies for moving forward. The funding has been helpful in securing training opportunities for the students, so hosting these events at the UConn campus or coming here, and certainly having colleagues throughout the university who are engaging in other deliberative dialogue practices gives us a good sounding board to work through the issues as they come up. I think it's really important that this grant is focused on community impact and not just producing academic papers or typical kinds of studies. And so it's been really exciting to be affiliated with that and to focus on a project that really has a direct impact in community.
And the community impact is going to be important for all of us. I know that the adults in the room and the students in the room have made it very clear that we do want to come up with some actionable course to take after the discourse. We're not sure what that's going to look like now. We have started to bat some things around. One of the things that's come up in just small group discussions is the idea of maybe having more support groups for students who are concerned about friends who are in crisis or family members. Perhaps something like a bereavement group, which we do not have here at E.O.Smith yet. I think it's been an on-again, off-again kind of thing, but something that may be something that students could tap into. And also looking at trying to put together some sort of guide for the larger community in terms of things that we have locally that are services that are available for people. So those are some of the ideas that we're looking at in terms of what kinds of actions can we take in the immediate. In terms of the funding, certainly as we get closer to coming up with some of the artwork and the publicity that we're going to be needing to put together, we've got students who are interested in creating posters and flyers and what have you. We've got Eleiza who's going to be helping us reach out to the community. But when we're putting together those kinds of documents to get the word out, that'll be very helpful. So we really, in terms of funding this, without the grant, this would not be what it is right now, and we wouldn't have as favorable a future, I don't think, in terms of our progress and going forward.
And even learning how to facilitate. I went to programs through Democratic Discourse where I learned how to facilitate, and even got the opportunity at the middle school to be involved in facilitating conversation about I Never Saw Another Butterfly. And that was a great opportunity where I really got to step into the role, and I never would have been able to do it without Democratic Discourse.